Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving into a massive policy U-turn that could have ripple effects for millions of South Africans: the government's decision to withdraw the proposed increase in value-added tax, or VAT, from 15% to 15.5%. This may sound like a small adjustment on paper, but in reality, it's a deeply significant move that reflects the pressure the state is under, both politically and economically. In today's video, we'll explore why the VAT increase was introduced in the first place, why it was reversed, and what this all means for your pocket, your electricity bill, your groceries, and the country's long-term economic survival. Let's start with the basics. VAT is one of the most important sources of revenue for the South African government. It's a consumption tax, which means it's applied when you buy goods and services. Unlike income tax, which is only paid by people who earn above a certain threshold, VAT is paid by almost everyone, whether you're rich or poor. That's why VAT hikes are so controversial. They hit the poor the hardest. So why did the government want to increase VAT in the first place? Simple, they're broke. South Africa's fiscal situation is dire. Public debt is rising, economic growth is stagnant, and revenue collection has been falling short of targets for years. Eskom continues to bleed money despite endless bailouts. Municipalities are collapsing. And tax compliance has been steadily declining, in part because of growing public mistrust in how that money is spent. Add to that the economic devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic, and you've got a government desperately looking for new sources of revenue. Initially, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana shocked the nation when he proposed a once-off 2% VAT increase during the 2024 budget planning process. The idea was to plug a hole of over 50 billion in the national budget. But that move was so unpopular, and seen as so politically tone-deaf, that it was shelved almost immediately. Instead, the plan was revised, a smaller increase to 15.5% this year, followed by a further bump to 16% next year. But even that revised plan was too much for opposition parties, civil society groups, and ordinary citizens, who flooded Parliament and social media with objections. Legal challenges were filed. Protests were threatened. Political pressure mounted. And finally, in a quiet midnight statement on its website, National Treasury confirmed that the VAT hike was dead. So what does that mean for you and me? To understand that, let's look at the items most South Africans spend money on every day. Many basic food items are already zero-rated for VAT. That means the tax doesn't apply to them, regardless of what the rate is. This includes 19 key staples like maize meal, brown bread, rice, eggs, fruit, vegetables, and milk. Recently, the list was expanded to include dairy liquid blend, tinned vegetables, and even edible offal, which, believe it or not, is a lifeline protein for many low-income households. So if you're living hand-to-mouth and relying mostly on these basic goods, the VAT hike wouldn't have changed your daily grocery bill. And the withdrawal of the hike won't reduce it either, it simply maintains the status quo. But here's the catch: there are many essential items that are not zero-rated. Cleaning products, sanitary towels, toothpaste, soap, over-the-counter medicines, cereal, snacks, electricity, transport costs, baby formula. These items do carry VAT. And even a 0.5% increase would have translated into higher prices for all of them. Take electricity, for example. If you spend R500 on prepaid power every month, a 0.5% VAT increase would mean paying R507.50 instead. That's R7.50, not huge on its own, but when added to every other VAT-inclusive item you buy in a month, it builds up fast. Now consider this on a national scale. Millions of households paying a bit more, every month, for hundreds of different products. That's money that doesn't go into savings, school uniforms, or transport. For poor and working-class families, this VAT hike would have made a meaningful difference in their day-to-day survival. So when we talk about relief, that's what we're referring to. The reversal means price stability, at a time when inflation is already a serious threat and wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. But relief comes at a cost, and the big question now is, how will government make up the shortfall? Treasury was counting on the VAT increase to raise billions in additional revenue. Without it, that money has to come from somewhere. Will it be new taxes? More borrowing? Spending cuts? Let's look at each of those options. Option 1, raise other taxes. The problem here is that South Africans are already heavily taxed. From fuel levies to sin taxes on alcohol and cigarettes, to income tax brackets that haven't been adjusted for inflation, taxpayers are feeling the squeeze. There's also talk of a possible wealth tax, or new capital gains rules, but these would take time to implement and enforce. Option 2, borrow more. South Africa is already spending over our 1 billion per day just servicing debt, not repaying it, just covering interest. If we keep borrowing at this rate, our credit rating could take another hit, making it more expensive to raise money in the future. It's a dangerous spiral. Option 3, cut spending. This is the politically toxic option. Cutting spending means freezing public sector wages, trimming down departments, scrapping bailouts, and reducing grants, none of which are politically viable in an election year. But without these kinds of tough decisions, the fiscal deficit will continue to widen. There's also a fourth option: finally take real action on corruption, wasteful expenditure, and tax evasion. Billions are lost every year to mismanagement and outright theft. If government could clean up procurement, digitize more services, and hold officials accountable, they could claw back a significant amount of money. But let's be honest, that requires a level of political will we haven't consistently seen. So where does this leave us? The VAT hike may be gone, but the structural problems remain. We have a tax base that's shrinking, a population that's suffering, and a government stuck between fiscal responsibility and political survival. And with elections just months away, you can be sure that every economic decision is being made with an eye on the ballot box. So here's our question to you: how should South Africa raise revenue without hurting the poor? Should we tax the wealthy more? Sell off failing state-owned enterprises? Cut bloated departments? Or is there another way? Let us know what you think in the comments. We want to hear your solutions, your frustrations, and your ideas for building a fairer, more sustainable economy. If you found this video informative, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into South African politics, economics, and governance. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.